Hi, this is Donna Blevins, the big girl of poker, and this is Women's Poker Association, uniting women poker players worldwide. And I'm thrilled that we're here on our Thursday talk, and we have one of my absolute favorite people in the world. We're going to have Marsha Wolak on. She is my superstar in poker. One of the most just wonderful people that I've been associated with, the 2011 World Series of Poker Ladies Champion. I almost said main event champion. You'll love that for me. Just a slip.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that'll do. And her training site is Epic Poker Training. And it's a wonderful program. And I was honored that she had me come on last year as their poker mindset coach. So, Marsha, say hello, and I want you to start out by telling us something that I think everybody needs. And can you tell us what the #1 leak in poker is?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, and I want to thank the Women's Poker Association for having me here today. It's always an honor, and it's always enjoyable to see you, Donna. It's always great. I think that's great. I know a lot of people are preparing for the WSOP, and I wanted to share some tips that today they could instantly put in their bag and help them immediately rather than something down the road. So I think the #1 league that I think if they focus on now, it could help them right away. It's overcalling, in my opinion, it's overcalling on draws. And there are a lot of times that's a good thing to do with implied odds, but I think at least awareness is the key to change. And I think you have to at least be aware what the hand odds versus the pot odds are in relation to your call. And a lot of people send me a question. In fact, I just had one a couple of days ago from a friend of both Deborah and mine. But he asked, why is this? I'm getting deep, but I'm not cashing or I'm busting right before. And a lot of times you're draining chips invisibly. And what that is you're not paying attention to the math. And math is just a part of the whole package, but drawing hands are just what they say. They're not a made hand yet. So if you're draining excessive chips on not made hands incorrectly, it'll be an invisible leak that you'll all of a sudden be like, where did my chips go? So I'm so glad Deborah is on here. Deborah has been a student and a friend of mine for years, and she always kind of struggled with this, but I know that she's worked hard on her game. And I just am such a believer that wait till at least you have a combo draw where you have, say, a flush and a straight draw or backdoor draws. But I see especially just a lot of like a straight flush draw or a straight draw. People are calling like pot-sized bets. They're calling all-ins. And then they wonder, why aren't I winning tournaments? So I think that, if you could just pay attention and by all means, check out any information online. It's readily available. Of course, I love my own site, but our own company, Donna's a part of it. So I just want you to be aware of that, because I think that will help you both in cash, but more so in tournaments, because cash, you can pull more money out if you miss your draw, and it's actually probably with just a little EV, you're supposed to go for it in cash, but in tournaments, your seat value overrides a lot of decisions that you're making. So just that's, in my opinion, what's the #1 leak in poker.
I agree 100%. And what's the difference between hand odds and pot odds for listeners who might not know?
Well, #1 thing I would, to make life easy, I say just memorize a few basic ones that come up all the time. Like the hand odds or the percentage that you'll hit it, say for a flush draw. And if you want to jot these down, because I don't like to make anything difficult. I like to do the KISS, keep it simple, stupid. I like, because there's so many decisions you have to make at the table. The math should not be that complicated. So, for instance, just memorize a flush draw, 4-to-1. So what that means is, and when I say 4-to-1, what people get confused about, they'll be like, no, Marsha, it's 36%, it's 2-to-1. But what they're getting confused about is that's with 2 streets, not 1. If your opponent is all in, you get the 2-to-1. So it gets kind of a mishmash. People kind of blend it all together. Oh gosh, I got a 2-to-1. I can make this call on the flop, or you can't. I mean, if somebody, you really, really need to just memorize it and then be disciplined. And then if you add the combo draws, which give you more outs, which increase, say, a 4-to-1 flush draw, when you start adding in combos, hey, I got a straight draw too. Do you know with a straight draw and a flush draw, you get all the way to like 0.8-to-1. You go better than 1-to-1 odds. So you just have to be aware, it's kind of basic math put into a little bit of hand memorization. So flush draw 4-to-1, straight draw 5-to-1. And when you have an opponent all in, those both kind of become around a 2-to-1. So, and then a gut shot, what I'm always amazed at is people that stay in on a gut shot straight. What, do you have a chat box? What do people think a gut shot straight is? I'm amazed. Are they able to add in the chat their answers? What do they think? How about, what does anybody think the odds is for a gut shot straight?
Yeah, and please do. Okay. Yeah, I want everyone to know that you can type in the chat box and I'll see them and I ask her questions, and that's where I want you to put your questions or responses. So what do you think the odds are for a gut shot straight? Yeah, so you can
let me know what they're saying, because I just want the big screen. I don't have the chat box in right now.
That's okay. It's okay. It's better not to get distracted, because that's.
I focused on your beautiful face, Donna. That's what I'm doing.
Oh, thank you so much. Before we get into a lot of different things, because of the time of the year, what are your best tips for the WSOP?
Well, look, can we finish this last one? Did anybody guess what a gut shot straight was?
Not yet.
Okay, well, I'll just say it. It's 10.5-to-1. So what that means is you need like 10 times the pot odd. I mean, you really need a ridiculous amount that's never going to happen unless somebody, if you have 10 people in, they're all betting 100, and then all you need is 100. So that's how you compare these numbers. And yes, when you hit a gut shot, if there's really great implied odds and there's several people in with big stacks, then that's great to try something like that. If you're not getting the express odds, the exact odds, but you're getting that carrot in the window where you know that they'll also pay you off. So there's a good time to stretch pot odds, but just do yourself a favor. Don't go crazy with that.
I agree.
And here's another good one. Flopping a flush. That's less than 1% chance to flop a flush, but everybody likes to, not everybody, but a lot of people like to play any 2 suited cards. And that's a huge mistake. And actually something happened to me the other day. I flopped a flush and so did somebody else. And unfortunately mine was lower. So needless to say, I busted that. But I can't worry about a 500. I can't worry about a 500-to-1 odds, and I wouldn't want you to worry also. And the odds of that actually happening are 0.002, so it's 1/5 of 1%. So sometimes it's a relief to just rely on the math. And then if you bust, you know what? That means I have 500 more tournaments in a row before that will ever happen to me again. That's kind of how I think of that. I can't hear you, Donna.
That's because I muted myself when the dog went barking. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for dealing that, because hand odds and pot odds and people just don't get it. And that was one of the first things that I had to learn because I didn't have any idea about it. And it's really simple math. And I believe that people really do need to pay attention to that and to learn it. And explain to people what implied odds means.
And this is the beauty about implied odds. And again, when you have a calling station, when you have, and you know that if you hit that, they're going to pay you off. They don't pay, they're what we call a level 1 player. They don't even notice, well, like when a flush draw hits, or they're going to call anyway, or they don't notice when an open-ended straight draw hits. They're just so focused on their own cards. That's called a level 1 player, and they have a lot of chips somehow. So implied odds are when you believe that it's worth going above the express odds of the actual hand odds versus pot odds, the boring number, but you go beyond that because you know that if you hit that, you'll get paid off and their stack is worth it. Please don't stretch too far on an implied odds against a short stack player. There's no reason to do that because you're risking more chips than what they even have as a short stack. So you want to, when you're working with an implied odd situation like the combo draws, which are fantastic, make sure you have an effective stack, which is the lowest stack on your table that you can win, you know, a stack that's good enough to stretch the odds for, that is going to make a difference in your own stack.
So it's the future odds effectively.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, and give us some kind of a short scenario of what the best tips are for the WSOP.
Well, we talked about we put those in kind of questions. So do you want to ask the questions that we put them in?
Sure.
Okay.
So let's say, how do you play from small blind, which is the toughest position, because players tend to lose a lot of money in those positions. How can they minimize it?
And that is a fantastic one because the small blind is the toughest position to play, and also where you lose the most chips. And just please know right off the bat, you will never win. You'll never be a winning player from the small blind. So over time, when you look at your positional success, you will never be ahead from the small blind. So it's just, you have to just accept it. It's a hard fact, but that's the way it is. But what you want to do is you want to minimize that. And in certain situations, you can make up for the loss in playing correctly. So usually in normal hands, normal positions, you can 3-bet light, you can obviously raise, you can call. The problem about the small blind, if you 3-bet light, and everybody knows what that is raising with really nothing, or the problem with that is you have the big blind who is mathematically priced in if a late position raiser has already raised. So the minute you 3-bet with a late position raiser, the big blind actually has some equity in the hand. Even 2 cards, you know, has decent equity in like the 26%, and then more depending on the odds when it finishes. So you kind of want to cut that out completely, where you're 3-betting light with nothing. So you already lose a part of your options there. So what you want to do is you obviously want to 3-bet with your very strong hands, your big pairs, and then 3-bet with hands that they're not really profitable to call, but you don't want to throw out, like ace-10 suited, or big Broadway card suited. And then one of my favorite hands just to flat call with, because you never want to get re-raised off this hand, a Jack-10 suited. In fact, the joke is they're called Asian aces. They're actually one of my favorite hands ever. I just won a huge cash pot with that the other night. Almost won a $2,000 high hand, but so you have to throw out completely a section of your hands, and then I'd say overall you're only going to be playing 15% approximately of all hands raising, calling, and folding most of them. So just to save yourself some money and just accept the horrible fact that over time, over your lifetime of poker, you will lose from the small blind.
Yeah, and you know, you look at hands that draw well, basically two cards that can draw to the nuts or can draw to anything. So you want to think about drawing well. I think that's what the
playability, right?
Aces. I hadn't heard of them call that, but you said ace 10. I have to say this, ace 10. Every time you say ace 10, I go ah, because both Maria Ho and I both busted out of the 2007 World Series of Poker in main event with an ace 10. Both of us did.
Yeah. It's a, yeah, unless you flop the straight, it's a really tough hand. It's a
it is. So speaking of the World Series, this is interesting because what changes in strategy would you make to account for increased chip stacks at some of this year's WSOP? For example, some $1,000 buy-ins have gone to 5,000 have gone from 5,000 chips to 20,000 chips.
And that's a great question. And last year, I know a lot of listeners have gone to my seminars on, you know, preparing for these 5,000. They used to be 3,000. It's all thrown out the window now. Because what's great is, you know, you can now play a lot of spec hands. You can play, there's no rush. But I still believe that you should be playing nut spec hands, like suited aces. Stay away from like even suited kings. It's just not worth with that long of blind levels to go out with a king high flush versus an ace high flush. You really want to play a lot of nut spec hands. So before, people didn't understand, like even though the blind started low, they were still raising way over the limit because there's a lot of amateurs playing in it. Mm-hmm. So you ended up losing half your stack with a spec hand like pocket eights. I remember my first year, that's pretty much what happened when I played. So now, I can't wait. So you should be in there. You should never be late to any WSOP event because of the amount of amateurs, and you really should play a lot of hands early, because if people overvalue top pair, maybe an over pair if you hit two pair or a set, you don't want to miss the opportunities to maximize the value of that.
Well, do you play both cash and tournaments, and what advice do you have for players who are weighing the pros and the cons of playing both?
Well, I definitely have some opinions here, and I need everybody to reach into their bankroll and be honest with themselves, because that answer to this depends on your bankroll and your discipline within yourself. For instance, when you go play cash, the rule of thumb is you should have between 40 to 50 times your buy-ins. So for instance, people tend to play above their bankroll because, oh my gosh, you can win more in a pot, and the pots are bigger. Well, of course the pots are bigger, and so is the need for your bankroll. So if you have, say, you're playing $500 buy-ins, and 40 times that, you need $20,000 set aside just for cash play. And then you look at the tournament side, and the rule of thumb there is you need 100 times your entry. So a lot of the World Series are much more expensive to enter than the $200 at your local club. So 100 times 1,000 is $100,000. So if you're going to play both cash and tournaments, you need 120. And if you're going to play 2-5, you need $120,000 set aside to do that. And I'm just giving generalization. So, and then the second part of that, so I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. I put the cart before the horse. So if you want to focus on, if tournaments are your focus, which there's so many amazing tournaments in the next few months, just crazy, and you're borderline on the bankroll to play cash, then focus on the tournaments. Or say, you know, you really, because the cash games are juicy too, so if you want to come and focus on the cash and don't have that huge bankroll, then then why don't you whittle down your tournament schedule and play more cash? So I think bankroll management during this poker frenzy, and I'll make people laugh because the first time I heard it, someone called it a poker orgy. Like, I remember that stuck in my head. And it is, you get so caught up that, oh my gosh, I can jump to this tournament. Oh, I busted this tournament. I got another one here. I can go there. You know, I mean, you can play 3, 5, how many tournaments in one day, depending on, or rebuys. So you have to have discipline. Then, so that's as far as bankroll management. Then the other factor is the strategies. They're two completely different games. For instance, you can play ace king very differently in a cash game, and you should, versus ace king in a tournament. I mean, it's just one example. So your strategies are so different for the two. If you feel really confident that you can make that dividing line so clear that you can play a tournament in the morning and then, you know, close the door on that strategy and then open up the new one and go play cash and do that. I mean, God bless you, because you're way ahead of me. I can't do that very well. I do specialize in tournaments. I do enjoy a good cash game, but for me here, I'm going to specialize more in tournaments just because it's easier on my brain. So you got to balance both the bankroll, you know, and the strategy when you come here, because it's a poker fest like no other. And
yeah, I agree 100. Oh, I agree 100% that it's important to. It's vital that we focus on one or the other, trying to mix that play. There's just no way we can comfortably do that. I mean, I see people, what I want to do, what my husband wants to do when we go to an event is he wants to play the cash, and he wants to play the cash where the tournament players, when they bust out, are going to go play, because it's like he says, I have my bucket, because they just blow off their money when they bust out of a tournament.
And speaking of bust out of the tournament, you know, here's a good goal. Like, if you're going to play cash and you're playing the tournament, say you bust out, and say you played a non-WSOP, because most of them are over. Say you play a Venetian for 400. And so set a goal. Like, if you say, okay, I want to win back my buy-in, you know, and if you do that in 5 minutes, 1 hour, you know, then get up and leave. But the problem with cash is it's hard to leave, because you always think, hey, I'm ahead, I can win more, I can win more, I can win more. Next thing you know, you bust everything, and then you're like, now why didn't I leave? So again, I talked about having discipline. You know, what is your goal? Like, what is, you know, if you just sit down and I'm just going to play. I mean, for me, maybe it works for you, but if I don't have a goal, like, okay, I'm going to play to win 400, 200, you know, and be realistic. If you're in a 1-3 game, you can't walk in and say, I'm going to win $1,500 to $2,000. I mean, you have to be realistic with your goals and discipline.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You know, how long does it take to change a poker habit and implement a new strategy?
Oh, I love this. In fact, Donna, I think you'll really enjoy this conversation that we're about to have, because I am a huge believer in being kind to yourself and rewarding yourself when you're working on your game, when you're improving, and you have to have patience. I will say that, and again, if we want to do a little contest to see how long the viewers think it takes to change a habit, to learn something new and implement it, but we'll just go ahead and talk about it. The old school of thought was 21 days, and that still comes up today, which blows me away. Do you know where that came from? It came from a book from 1960 called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, who was a plastic surgeon who did a facelift on people. That was his specialty. And he realized that, oh, after 21 days, these people on average get used to their face. Can you believe that this outdated book infiltrated this long and has held on to that kind of belief from a plastic surgeon operating on a facelift, it blows me away. So one of the things that Donna knows, I actually took a few years back, was a 6-week course in behavior change. It blew me away, and the things they were saying. The actual time it takes is up to you. Everybody is different. Everybody, like when you go into a restaurant and order, usually you're not going to order the same thing as the person even that you're with or at another table. Everybody is a custom piece of work, a piece of art. So what you have to do is you have to find what works for you. So they decided there's a range from, like, some people can do this in 18 days. Others can do it up to 254, making the average 74 days. But there's theories that are, I believe, 100%, that it can take years, maybe a lifetime. But the key is, don't stop trying to change bad habits, bad behaviors, because eventually you'll get there. You should get there. But I think what's frustrating to me is the social media, like Instagram, Snapchat, Vine, like everything is so instant. Everything is supposed to be, you're supposed to do this instantly, and the pressure to do everything instantly. And I really think it has maybe some influence on why there's such a high suicide rate, why people have the depression is going off the charts. I think this pressure on everything happening so fast. So be kind when you're learning something or you're trying to change a habit, not just in poker, but in life. So you're trying to quit smoking, you're trying to lose weight. First of all, nobody is perfect. You're always going to, have some backpedaling a little bit here and there. Never give up, and don't expect, honestly, I see a program, stop smoking in 21 days or whatever it is. I'm sorry, but it's bullshit. It's all up to you how long it takes, and be kind to yourself, reward yourself. I actually have a reward, part of a routine that I have recently put together. Part of it is they have those bags. They're like $10 at the ABC store in Las Vegas, and it looks like a $100 bill. And whenever you cash in a tournament, I put 10% of the money right when they pay me. I take 10%, put it in this pouch. Then I go reward myself. I'll go get I like pedicures, manicures. I like some clothing. I put the receipts in the bag. So I reward myself and then I can go back. Hey, the money's gone, but the receipts are still there. But you have to be kind and reward yourself when you do something good. And there was I don't believe in negativity at all. There's a behavior style called aversion therapy where you, and please, I know there's probably people that do this in poker. They discipline themselves, like if they bust. For instance, like, I always joke about they should make like human dog electric collars. Like, you get electrocuted when you do something, bad. But like, I'm so the opposite. I don't like any kind of aversion therapy. I don't like anytime you shouldn't be negative to yourself. You're out there playing poker. Be positive, be kind to yourself, and just give yourself all the time you need. And as long as you keep trying, that's success. That is positive. Just keep going, because just know it takes years. It's not an overnight thing.
Absolutely. Rewarding yourself is way better than punishing yourself. How we talk to ourselves and treat ourselves absolutely matters. And I say the words you choose set yourself up for either success or failure.
It's true.
So speaking of rewarding ourselves, what non-poker related things do you recommend people do now to prepare for the upcoming WSOP?
Fantastic. I am a huge believer in physical exercise, getting prepared physically before you go. It is an endurance contest like no other. You are inside buildings that either A, they're smoking not too far, but fortunately they're not smoking in the poker room. In fact, I was at the Venetian and a guy kept trying to slip in a vape, what's it called? I don't do it. But that's not allowed either. But you really need to be in really tip-top physical shape because of the grind. For instance, you can notice and you can start seeing when people start to get sleepy and then they walk off, they want to start getting a cup of coffee. And you know what? Your brain is a muscle. So when you exercise your body, your brain benefits from that as well. So the stronger your whole body is, the better endurance you're gonna benefit from. And these tournaments, like again, and cash sessions people play. There was a lady at the Venetian, been there like two days playing because they have some promotion. You play for X hours, it jumps up or whatever. But there's no way physically possible your brain can be focused for that long. It's a muscle, it needs to relax, it needs to rest. So the better shape you're in going there, the better you'll do on the tables.
And I think it's important to also change your bio clock too, depending on where you are, because I'm 3 hours away from there. I'm on the East Coast, and if I'm going to start a tournament at noon, but my body thinks it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, by the time it gets to, if it's a 12-hour tournament, a 14-hour tournament, you know, my body's going to go, I should be in bed. And it takes a lot longer to shift your clock, and you need to shift your clock to that time zone.
Absolutely.
Regardless of where you are, and that's a really big part of it. And there's a question here. Deborah had said, and by the way, there's a new tournament this year to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the WSOP, and it's called the Big 50. And Deborah wanted to know are you playing in it, and do you have any advice for it?
Great question, Deborah. And I will say that the first time the Colossus came out, which was similar but different, and I got so excited about that. I played three days. I cashed all 3 times, and I promised myself I'm never playing it again, ever. And the reason, you'll be like, what? You cash, and why wouldn't you play again? It affected the rest of my summer. I was exhausted. That tournament, I even would play and get down to like 4% of the people and still not make day 2. You gotta go way past the 10%, way past the 5% in the Colossus to even make day 2. And so after playing 14 hours one day, and then I tried it again, I played like 3 days in a row. I was so physically, mentally exhausted that I should have just taken a week off to recover. And that was the kickoff tournament. So this year, I am planning on playing the Big 50. It has 50,000 chips, 50 minutes. And I'm hoping that I make day 2 on the first bullet would be nice, so I don't wear myself out, because I do enjoy, because it's 50,000 chips and the style of my game is definitely deep stack, and I feel I should be able to go deep and make day 2, hopefully. And if I find it being very taxing, I'm not going to play it. I won't play another day. I'm going to play the first day, and I want to see, how it goes. But if it's anything like the Colossus, I don't care how many times I cash. It's not worth, for me, it's not worth playing. But the value is amazing. The value for $500, $5 million guarantee and $1 million to first, there's no value like that. It's phenomenal value. So I'm definitely going to play it, but I'm not going to kill myself the rest of the summer. I have a huge schedule, very excited. Everything is, I'm hopefully peaking. So I certainly am not going to wear myself out the first week like I did on the Colossus.
Yeah, it's the first entry break free, so that's really exciting. And I played in the Colossus too the first year, and it was so hard on me. What bothered me was there were so many table changes.
Yeah.
Because where it was, there were
Yeah.
On the first day, I made it to day 2 and played.
Good for you. I don't know how that was amazing. I said whoever won the Colossus, I have to be some god or goddess. I don't know. I couldn't imagine anyone winning that. You know.
Yeah, well, I got to day 2 and I played like an idiot on day 2. So just we won't go there. But on day 1, I was really fractured because in one day I was moved 11 times.
Yeah.
Because
it's
it was
draining.
it
Yeah.
was, and because it was not a case of, okay, go over there. It was, okay, we're changing this table. And now it was like we become ducklings, because they'd say, okay, follow us, and they go from here all the way out to another room, and then find the table, and you sat there. By the time you got settled and trying to profile the people, and it was like, I didn't know.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that you were not going to do it again. I would do it again because of that size and the structure. However, I know, my assistant just said, tag, don't call yourself an idiot, please. I played incorrect poker, which I rarely ever do and rarely ever will. So thank you. And what advice do you give for people who are considering or will be playing in the Big 50?
Again, you better be in tip-top physical shape going in. People get so focused, okay, let me work on hand ranges, reading this and this. They forget that that's an endurance contest. 50,000 chips with 50-minute blinds. You know how long that tournament is going to be and what a grind that is going to be. The biggest grind, probably more than the main event. At least the main event, you only play 5 levels, you go home, sleep, rest, and it's 2 hours. You know, this one is going to be the biggest grind of the whole summer. So number 1, get in physical shape. Number 2, you have 50,000 chips and 50-minute blinds. You should do the opposite. People are going to be like, I want to build my stack. I want to build my stack. I want to build my stack. I mean, don't think you have to go crazy. You got all kinds of time. You got all kinds of chips. Play the nut spec hands like I talked about earlier. It's fantastic. You have all these chips, but don't go crazy insane. There'll be the crazy insane people there, just like they were at the Colossus. You know, just play good poker, and you're not rushed to do anything, and you know, you should be fine. But if you don't come in there like ready to run a marathon in that kind of physical shape, and you don't prepare now for that, you're one mistake and no limit, you're out. So if you get tired, like the hungry and angry and all of that, if you add all those things in on a tournament like that, you know, control the controllables. Be ready to play before you get there, and then, you know, then you just need to deal with the things at your table. You're not dealing with all the rest of it.
Yeah, and Deborah came back and said, where I play, there is a lot of no fold'em, hold'em, and it's bad beat hell. How do we play around level 1 like this?
Level 1, and this is exactly what I teach. It's called leveling. You have to know the level of the player you're playing against, and you can only take out of your arsenal what works for that level. And like I say, I like to play 1 level above. So if you're up against a level 1 player that has an ace in their hand and you think ace high will win, you can't bluff that person. So you have to, even though, you know, and a lot of people get caught up in the fancy play syndrome trying to make plays against a level 1 player. So that tournament is going to have the most amateurs in it of any tournament the entire summer. You're going to see a lot of level 1 players. So all of you that are higher skill players, don't go in there playing level 4 or whatever. Don't be playing your game. You have to play down to their game. So just be careful on that. But the good news, when you trap those players, when you hit the big hands, they will pay you off. That's why you never want to be late to any of these tournaments. Be there on time. Don't come late. You know, buy your tickets in advance so you're not waiting in line for the first 2 hours of the tournament. Even if you pay a fee online, extra fee, do not be late to these tournaments.
I agree. Yeah. And don't bluff the unbluffable.
Right.
Don't bet into a raise a calling station who you can't fold a hand unless you have premium cards.
Absolutely.
And I always say don't wait for the cards, but you do have to have cards in certain situations, and you have
against calling stations, you do.
Yeah, against calling stations. Please tell us, and my goodness, 40 minutes have already passed, and
really?
so much to talk. Oh yeah, I love chatting with you. I absolutely love. Please tell us a bit about your online course.
It's awesome. I mean, I got the idea from my kids and I just started this about a year ago, all online. They were taking online courses in college, and it occurred to me, we have so much information, and what was frustrating is that we were doing like twice a year. We would do like once a month a live webinar followed by a couple of weeks of the videos and handouts, homeworks, and people were frustrated that they couldn't start in the first week, and by the second week there's too much information, so I wasn't letting people start late because it's not to their benefit. So a lot of people were missing out on the opportunity to participate and be in our class. So when my kids were taught and just the lights went on, like, hey. And so Donna referred me to a fantastic IT guy that she uses, and he was able to go in my head, and I had it in my head, I just didn't know how to technically do it, where I had all of this, an entire course, and made a 100-question exam at the end. But it's great. It has over 30 training videos. It has a 100-question final exam at the end. It has weekly homework. It has handouts. It has quizzes. But the whole key to it is progressive. It starts in week 1. It really focuses on bankroll management, tournament selection, because if you learn all these skills to become a great player and you didn't focus and understand that, you will go broke. I mean, you will. I've been fortunate, knock on wood, I've never gone broke, because right in the beginning, it stuck in, I kind of somehow backed into about bankroll management. I'm like, that's going to help me tremendously, because I was horrible when I started. So I'm like, oh, good. At least I'll have that to rely on, especially when you have your downswings, which everybody does. You get bad beats, or like my last tournament, I had aces, and the flop is 5-5 ace or whatever. I end up with aces full of fives. He has quad 5. So there's nothing you can do. So the course is very progressive. I try to build on the week before, but the key is people don't know their leaks a lot of times. They'll be like, well, if I gave you a list and put your strengths and your weakness, probably over 50% of the people, they've missed what the real leaks are. They're not even aware. So this course goes step by step, all the things. Some of them you'll know, some of them you won't, but you'll be like, oh my gosh, that could be why that's happening. Oh my gosh, I'm not doing that enough. I'm not 3-betting enough. So it's very progressive from A to Z, and I'm very proud of it, actually. And
it's Poker Academy on Demand, right?
Yeah, Donna's our mindset coach, awesome. But it's Jessica, Natasha, Donna, and I all have different weeks in it, and it's really great.
So I just grabbed a screenshot there, and I'm so glad that you finally listened.
Yeah.
Because I wanted you to do this a long time ago. I don't know if you remember. I said, you need to do it on demand, because that's actually why I named my book Mind Shift on Demand, because people want it now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So let's see here. There's so many more questions, but I'm going to say, let's say the one thing I want to finish with before we look at what your quote was that you wanted me to share, which you and I both 100% agree with it, and we'll end with that. But you have some specific advice for how people can best utilize their time during WSOP breaks. What is that advice? And
you know what? Thank you for asking that, because the breaks are 20 minutes long, 15 minutes long, depending on what event you're in. I'm really glad that they're not 10 minutes. But I want you to not think about poker on the breaks. Remember, if you're playing correctly, there's a lot of decisions that you're making on every single street before you play, you should be always reading the players, adjusting when you're moving the tables. Like Donna said, she moved umpteen times in one tournament. Well, you'll always be moving to new tables because of these giant fields. So you should be working very hard on reading the players. There's a lot of questions you want to answer right before you play every street. So when you go on break, let your mind relax and go on your phone, go on, take your mind off, walk around, get circulation. People are like, they start calling, hey, and they just never get off the poker track. I want you to let your muscle, remember it's a muscle in your brain. It's been working very hard, very hard. It needs a break. Give it the break so that when you come back, just like sets when you go to a gym, 3 sets, 12 each, take a break in between. You're not going to do the sets straight in a row and just keep going. So your muscle, your brain is a muscle. It needs to relax. Give it the break. Laugh. Go take a break. Forget poker while you're on your break.
I agree with you. Absolutely 100%. That is, it's absolutely what was able to help me with poker most of all, because I always dealt with mind shifting before I realized there was actually words for it, because it had to do with somebody wanted to come up and tell me what had happened before, and I'm going, no, it's no poker now. Somebody come up and say, I want to tell you about my bad beat, and I say, give me $25 and you can tell me about your bad beat. I want a green chip, and they'd go, yeah. What? I said, now actually it's a black chip. If they want to tell me a bad beat story,
no poker on break. No poker on break.
That's right.
Take a break. Yeah.
So let me do just a couple of screen shares and let everybody. Let's see here. Yes, that one share. To remember, epicpokertraining.com, where you can connect with this lovely Marsha Wolak, the 2011 World Series of Poker Ladies Champion, and I'm so proud to be proud to be with her. Her online course is Poker Academy Online on Demand.com, pokeracademy.com, on demand. And I'm also let you know that you can go over to my site, mindshiftoндemand.com, and you can grab a 4-minute audio of my Mindshift exercise that Marsha has shared with me. She continually uses. And why don't you, before I finish with the WPA site, tell me how you use my Mindshift exercise and how that has helped you in your life and your game, Marsha.
Well, it will include a, let's just say a French word, or pardon my French, or whatever you want to say. But you have got to watch this video. It's really great. But I also have much more experience with Donna's training. She's amazing. But one of the things I loved is when something happens that comes at you that it's frustrating, it might make you angry or whatever. In the past, I would be like, excuse me, but well, I'll just put it in the letters, you can fill in the blanks, but WTF, what was that? Now, Donna has taught me to kind of step back and say, isn't that interesting? And it kind of deflates the ability for it to affect me, which is really great. It's like I'm kind of a third party now instead of right involved, and I can kind of, isn't that interesting? And I can kind of look at it as non-emotional in this way. And I call it like the helicopter approach, where you lift yourself outside your body and kind of look down and say, what would a third party think? So that was just one of many. She has an Elvis thing in there too, which I love. But that in particular has really because a lot of things can come at you, especially during the World Series. So much is going on. If something, start irritates you all of a sudden, or you can just say, isn't that interesting? And don't let it be a waterfall. Let it run over you and not through you. I like it.
I love that. Thank you so much. I want to remind everyone, I want you to share this video. You can share it from YouTube. This will be on YouTube. I want you to share it to Facebook. And I want you to go to the Women's Poker Association site. It's WPA.poker. I love that. They got an extension, poker. WPA.poker, and you can join for free. And remember that we are women. We are uniting women poker players worldwide. And I'd like to share with you Marsha's favorite saying, and I have been saying this and believing this for so many years, and when she said it yesterday, I said, I will make a slide out of it. So let me share it with you. Let me go find the slide deck. It's Mahatma Gandhi said, your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values become your destiny. I believe that with all of my heart. And what would you like to say to everyone before we leave, Marsha?
I just want to say thank you for your time, and I have really appreciated the Women's Poker Association inviting me here today. I hope I see you in Vegas. Please come up if you're there. Give me a hug. I like hugs. I wish everybody the best, and on and off the felt. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.